I would like to welcome you all to the House of Reawakening Minds and our illustrious instructor, Grand Sheik, Master Teacher, Taj Tarik Bey. Let's receive him.
We've had multiple discussions this week, because I've had the honor of spending a lot of time with Dr. Nailah this week, so we had a lot of time to talk. And one of the things that I want to deal with is Wardship DisSPELLere. How many of you have the book Wardship DisSPELLere? How many of you have it present? That's all right. Now, Wardship DisSPELLere, I did that mainly to introduce people to God, the Word God, and to remove some of the mystery of the Word God. Now, one of the most discomforting things that humanity has to deal with in this current cycle is most of the evils that has befallen humanity has not come from some mystical devil, but it has indeed, in fact, and provably come from the priesthood collectively. The difficulty for people, many, to handle that truth is both dangerous to them, to their children, to their offspring, and to their future. One of the reasons I heavily edited Wardship DisSPELLere because actually it's not complete. It's not the Adeptus version. That's a synopsis version that I put out a few years back. And one of the things that I recognized in working towards helping to liberate humanity, a reality is if you don't tell the truth about the priesthood, you will not liberate them. If they don't find it out for themselves and start releasing, or what is the phrase that is said in the Septuaginta and in the Bible is render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. What that includes is the dogmata that was set up by the priesthood for mind control for conquest of humanity. And it's uncomfortable for a lot of us because we grow up in the mosques, in churches, in temples, in synagogues, in different houses. And one of the things that you'll learn when you go into scholarship, and understand venues like this at the House of Reawakening Minds, venues like the Round Table, etc., are really venues for people who are brave enough to start using their divine mind and thinking for themselves. And it is set for you to both politically, economically, and ethereally, at least on the third degree plane, to begin the liberation of the being, the monad, in the physical vehicle, actually to prepare you for the Aquarian age, or for the Aquarian cycle. In simplicity, or in common language, the priesthood referred to as Jesus come again, Jesus ascension, the new age, the revelation, in reference to your liberation, the common term would be called the apostasy. And the apostasy is really more or less directly talking about the dynamics of human development, of your work, learning the chambers of your mind. And some of it I'll go into, a little bit of it. But the actual purpose is to begin to get you to think again. And understand anything that I say to you is not something that you really don't know. Truth is, the priesthood has squashed the thinking processes of humanity to such a degree that for the most part people are afraid to think. And some people forgot that they're afraid to think. And they actually have been evolving in such a manner as to think that what they've been thinking are their own thoughts. And so the Wardship DisSPELLere. And I'm going to state certain fundamental truths. Did they get rid of those permanents out of here?
Yes.
Yes.
I thought we did before. Well, that was fun. Not. The mystery. Now, originally, I started teaching my children the Kabbalistic foundational books, so that as they grew up, they would not be spooked up and under the mind control of they like to call themselves Khazarians, but on another level, like when those of you who know the Septuaginta, when you look in John 8:44, and Yahshua says, makes reference to some persons claiming to be Jews and are not Jews, essentially those are the core of the dark priesthood who have been actually running the planet. And they are the circle of dark brotherhood that have been murdering all the prophets. And they're also the priesthood who set up the order of de facto governance on the planet to enslave humanity from generation to generation. Nevertheless, they've also been at the head of all your major orders that have been presented to the masses as religion. They have not always had every control of every person who present those positions to you, but they are in all of them, meaning that overall they control. And there's a couple of things that we want to discuss, and we want you to be very clear on, because we don't want you to be defensive. We don't want you to feel as though we're attacking your beliefs or your religion, etc. Because the truth is, and it's not taking a superior position, the masses don't get religion anyway. They have been convinced that they have. As an example, how many of you, in your honor to yourself, to your own self, being true, can honestly state that you know the keys to the universe because you know God? And if that is so, raise your hand. Go ahead. I know myself. Anyway. These things I would like you to take notes on, because really these directives tonight is to send you on a study mission. And because all of these things that we are mentioning cannot be discussed in detail, we hold you in honor to responsibility to yourself to do some research. However, we'll give you some reference points so that you don't have to spend years and years and years of scholarship, if you get the point, for those who know and who are not telling. I want to say this to you. Most people in positions of authority, in positions of the priesthood, whether they're imams, rabbis, sheiks, shamans, bishops, priests, reverends, the whole crew, matters not what club they come from. And many times as I've traveled the country and I've talked to people on this part of the land and people outside this land, most of the time when you're in what you would call privy council conversation, meaning like if we're in close quarters like this, or like sometimes I run into people when I've traveled, or when I've flown to different parts of the country, which I don't fly much anymore. I mostly travel train, and I've met a lot of people, Europeans and Asiatics. And the interesting thing that I've discovered, and not really, so now I'm gonna tell a story. It's not like that, really. People have a tendency, when they know, to recognize you even when you don't speak. Meaning that you can go, and you can go amongst people who are adeptus, and they can almost sense your presence. And a lot of times, if they feel comfortable, they'll start asking you questions to see where you are. You know what I mean? They'll try to break the ice. And when you're talking to them, and a lot of people not around, the things that we're talking about right now are not only not denied, they're often enhanced. And yet, when people are around, they change their whole story when it affects the pocket. You comprehend? And that's Europeans and Asiatics. And the other thing that I discovered to my disappointment, I'm not so much disappointed now, I think maybe when I was younger, that a lot, more often those who try to suppress the truth and the denial of the conditions of our people relative to the dogma cycles that they have been subjected to for generations is the persons among our own called reverends and priests, more so than Europeans. I won't go into what I think necessarily about them, but I'm just telling you, I'm bringing that to your notice. And that was one of the conclusions that I came to that inspired me to write Wardship, DisSPELLere, to be honest with you. But Wardship, DisSPELLere is not designed as an etymological dispensation on God itself, but yet an introductory. You know, it can go deeper and more refined, but I try to present things in such a way that people take responsibility, because these degrees are for liberation, they're not for followership. These degrees are not to make you follow people. These degrees are to liberate you to your own spirit, to take responsibility as to why your mother brought you here, and for you to be directed into that order in order that you might harmonize with the cycle that's coming. That's actually kind of like already here, but it's accelerating. And due to the real true fact of the present evolution of the human species at this time, jealousy, mostly jealousy, not so much anger, because it's not totally justified, but mostly jealousy, envy. The dark priesthood want to kill you all rather than see you liberated, because they lived on you for so many generations, and they have this sense of ownership, almost like they own your life. And in fact, they've been operating from that perspective. That's what the unum sanctum policy is. And for those who don't already know that, write that down, unum sanctum, because I'm not going to go into that, but keep this in mind, because these are keys that you need to know about the priesthood so that you can stop, bowing down to those who are really seeking to put you in darkness while pretending to be givers of the light. And when you see the Bible talk about the angels of the dark, or the peace breakers coming as peacemakers, all of this is reference to those in power who have been impersonating and misrepresenting the Bible, the Quran, the Wardship, the Vedas, Septuaginta, all of the books, which they all have, plus others I could name, Kybalion. For those of you who are prepared to, and I'm sure that you are because you wouldn't be here, begin to liberate yourself spiritually. Read the Kybalion. That's K-Y-B-A-L-I-O-N. B-A. And we're going to, in the future, we're going to bring that in to give you a heads up. Now, if I was talking to a rabbi, if I was talking to a Shriner, a member of Pool Society, DAR, Illuminati, Master Mason, past 18 degrees, Bishop, Grand Chief, Shaman, all of those are PhDs. Those are just titles for different orders, but the truth is one. Are we clear, you all? Meaning that when you're a follower or a believer, you follow what the person who's standing behind the pulpit or the rostrum speaks to you without challenge. Now, when you see the story of Yeshua and the priesthood, in order to hide the real history, codified the name of Zeus, Jesus, in 325 AD, which is not his name. But it's a passport. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. Are we clear? Are we clear? And Jesus is not a transliteration of Yeshua. Are we clear? All right. It's not what his mother named him. Are we clear? The one they call Jesus, that's who it is. That's his name. Now, because the figure that's presented in the name of Jesus is one of the most powerful psych figures on the planet. Except for the priesthood, most of the people who claim, I say that they love him. Because I won't make that lie. They say they love but if they did, they tell the truth. They say that. And for the claims of deep spirituality that our people and others who have promoted the dogma systems have promoted upon the planet, and they put buildings here, there, and everywhere, and funded it at the expense of the poor and the widow's pennies, and have been robbing the widow's pennies. This is why this one was disputing with the doctors of the law. Are we clear? And accusing them of their corruption. He didn't have to accuse them because he charged them with their corruption of stealing the widow's pennies. It is that body of men who set about to murder him, who put that in books in order to hide that history. Are we clear? The 39th book in the Bible, and keep in mind when you're looking at the Bible, Septuaginta, any of the books, the enumerations are purposeful one way or another. So pay attention to numbers too. Group them all by this. And I'm not going to go into it, I'm just giving these keys to you so that you can study, so that you can understand some other things that I'm saying to you. That's Yeshua's great-great-grandmother. Are we clear? She was Moabite and he was Moabite. Are we clear? She had hair like lamb's wool, skin like burnished brass as it burnt in an oven. And so did he. Are we clear? Not the image that they've shown you by the dark priesthood, showing him as a Roman, who was the murderers, actually. In other words, the murderers of Yahshua used his image, his work, his honor, his integrity with the people to draw the people unto them, yet they were his murderers. That's why they would not do anything in his name. So they did the Roman god Zeus, and they put the J. And the J is around 15th century. The letter J was not in the linguistics past 15th century. Are we clear? All priests know this. And it ain't nothing wrong with Jesus. Don't mistake me. Because it also means justice, symbolizes justice. Are we clear? But the conversation now is for your liberation, not for your enslavement, or not to get you to believe anything. To get you to know some things that the priesthood know that they haven't been telling you while they've been getting wealthy at your expense, and you had no power to cure anything. How many people you know that keep claiming to know Jesus, God, Allah, Moses, Muhammad can fix anything in society? Particularly, why don't they ask their gods to put this European in check that keeps destroying the planet? Oh, he's scared of him, right? Why don't they ask their God to tell this man to stop practicing servitude upon the poor, going to and fro the earth, devouring nations in the name of lords that they never named, God and country that they never named? Why don't their gods come rescue them from this Roman who's claimed to be white man, which is a legal title, has nothing to do with complexion? And why do not the priesthood tell them that their thoughts were in folly, when the priesthood knows that they too are listed as white men because that's a legal title? And that the people who are being destroyed are white people put into darkness. How come the priesthood don't want to get in those kind of conversations? Because the change stops jingling. And Rome won't give them their kickback from the corporate de facto operatives called 501c3 Skull and Bones Agreement. So they don't talk this kind of conversation. As a matter of fact, I want you all to also, as I'm thinking about it, write this down. David Steele, and that's a European that used to work with the CIA of the corporate entity. And look at the 6 points. The 6 points of control systems used by the CIA for the trolls and persons who will counter this information. Meaning that as fast as Dr. Nailah records what we're saying right now and puts it on the air, CIA already has a budget for trolls to attack it. So, but Europeans are starting to tell the truth too. So I'm giving you that name because he's one of the heads of the CIA, and he'll expose that stuff too. Because a lot of Europeans want to fix this because, as you already know, the middle class is being destroyed, and it's no longer in their interest to play the stupid game that has maintained the BS. But the people have been lied to so long, they think that this stuff is fringe, if you get the point, or out to lunch, or anti-government, when actually it's pro-government proper. You see the point? So keep that in mind. And this other thing that I want you to remember, when you run into any politician, whether they're council persons, mayors, these are all actors. In North America, this is very clear, it's not an opinion, these are facts. So when we're talking about what you thought was religion and the priesthood, and you ran into a politician who's been taxing you and stealing your finance, he's a high priest whether you didn't know it. And women are priestess. Every last one of them. Are we clear? All your big time ministers, every last one of your big time, we're not talking about small people that come sincere trying to help the community. Any big time minister, I'll name a few so that you don't get it twisted. Any of your popular black leader guys that have been marching people all around are 32, 33 degree Masons. Anyone in a Masonic order is a high priest. Masonry itself is not a negative. Are we clear? It's the preservation of the knowledge of the evolution of the human species on the planet with all the sciences that are attributed to the life of man and his evolution on the planet. Are we clear? I.e. Moorish science. This is why all persons in secret societies wear the Moorish fez. Can you stand up for a minute, brother, please? Oh, you brought me a sandwich. Whenever you go into ancient culture, anywhere on Earth planet, Earth is called Gaia also. That's G-A-I-A. You will see that fez on ancient stone figures in ancient Babylon, in ancient Lemuria, for the star travelers, etc. And that is the symbol of the universe, also of the womb. And it was given to us by our mother. Are we clear? So even when in culture, when you see some people getting upset when sisters wear the fez, you can't wear a fez, you can't wear a turban type. That's her. She gave it to us. The other deal is recognize when you're going into ancient culture on Earth planet, it's a matriarchy, not patriarchy. That does not remove our testicles, brothers. All right. Or the marbles. You know, and we need to really get over a lot of things that we've been taught. We must bring balance to the planet again. And what brings balance is truth. On the top of the crown of that fez are 3 circles. Thank you, brother. And you'll see like this, and you'll count them, you all, in your spare time. Right? And you'll see in the center, it will be 9. That's the first circle. Second circle, it will be 12. Go back and count y'all. And on outer circle, it will be 18. Now, and then you'll see it in 4 corners. You'll see it in 4 corners. And so those 4 corners represent the 4 corners of the universe. Are we clear? And in the center of that fez, you'll see a finial. For those of you who are metaphysicians, and those of you who are also engineers, and those of you who are LLDs, that means doctors of ecclesiastics. This symbol, if you look at your old Septuagint, your old Bible, your old Book of the Dead, your old Kabbalistic literature, this symbol here symbolizes what you call God. From a metaphysical, they call it the black dot theory. In geography, they call it earth symbol and sun symbol. Pardon me, sun symbol. Are we clear? Keep this in mind. The reason I'm telling you this is because what you must comprehend from what we're talking about tonight is that religion is a study of the universe and a dispensation of the knowledge of the universe and its functions to the degree that you have not forgotten. Are we clear? And it's also remind you, it's sort of like cultivating a little plant with enough cultivation to keep it from dying, knowing that it has to grow later. Are we clear? On a larger scale. So it is with us. Are we clear? And so religion is designed to keep you inspired, but it itself is not your growth serum. Are we clear? And it is not conclusory. Are we clear? It is write this down, this is very important. Religions, and we're not talking about dogma, which is counterfeit, are social solace systems. Now I'm telling you these things because collectively, I want these to be part of the canvas of your thought processes as we're talking. Are we clear? Now, when you see these circles, and I'll just do this as representative. Then from here, you got a cord. It's like an umbilical cord. Then a bowl of mud called earth. Then the degrees that the earth dances as it follows the spiral of the sun as the sun shoots through the universe. And yet there appears to be stability, but it actually operates in a spiral. Are we clear? That phase is also called Corona Sol, crown of the sun. Are we clear? So when you see persons who have called themselves Jews and Christians and Muslims and Hindus and Brahmins, and you do the tracers on all the cultures around the world, you're going to find their heads at the root. Are we clear? So when our illustrious prophet brought you back the truth about your nationality and your birthright, purpose was to re-establish you in your proper place because you have been displaced on the planet. Are we clear? Politically and economically, you have been displaced. However, it's incumbent upon you to study for it to become your reality. Are we clear? Though it be true, it must be true to you. And so the heirs of the estate must evolve to a level of sincerity that nature herself recognizes you, that you recognize yourself. Then she comes to your aid. Before then, you will be left in the wilderness. And if Rome feeds on you, it will be that way. It's another reason why I did Wardship DisSPELLere years ago. Because I recognize many people, even in scholarship, are still spooked up by the word God that locks them out of truth. Are we clear? And again, I'm going to remind you, do not get caught up in that as a negative. It's not a challenge against the word God. It's just that it's not what you thought it was. Are we clear? Now, fact, truth. Those of you who know some of your history and some of the honor of your mothers and fathers know that we here in the north, or what you call Turtle Island, North America, Northwest Mexico, Northwest Africa, one of our ancient symbols here and around the planet is this. That is swastika. How many of you know what that means? Raise your hand. I saw it. Yeah, that was a quick drop down. One of those things. Right. Peace. No.
Sun.
Say it.
The sun. 90, 90, 90, 360.
Well, it does that too, but what is it called? What is there's a phrase that has been given to this swastika, or like for instance, in the ancient days, even up to current, or in some parts of the planet still, but among us before we were conquered by Romans and turned our hearts away from our mothers and fathers and started following after Romans. Before the Black Era, that's called the Black Era. It's not a people, it's an era. Are we clear? Like a period,
Yeah.
all right, of dark history, of ignorance, extreme debauchery. That's Black history. All right, now, when women would choose a husband, because remember they always chose us, we didn't choose them. We was checking them out, but it didn't work that way. They put one in their hand, in the palm of their hand. And also, like, sometimes they used to dance, and they choose one and then mark it. You had to cooperate too. Well, how it worked. The things that kind of messed up. So we're out of harmony with nature. We think we know what's up. It's not how nature works. And plus, we're minors anyway. When I say minors, they outnumber us like heavily. Anyway. So they put the swastika, and also in the matrimonial ceremonies, they would dress their hands, sometimes with henna, and they would do, amongst the designs, they would do tree of life, things like that, life star, a star of a 5-pointed star for Venus, and swastika. But this is what this is commonly called from ancient times to ancient times to ancient times to ancient times to present. Are we clear? And from that evolved the phrase, the Supreme Being. That's where the phrase Supreme Being evolved from. This is what I just told you now is known by all priesthood. They don't promote it because they have different clubs that they have to protect their economic interests and their controlling factors. Are we clear? Do research and you'll find it yourself. Are we clear? Now, go ahead.
So is it dogma?
I prefer if you get on the mic since we're. I'll explain. I'll go into that too. But go ahead. No, please do it. Bring it up, please.
So is it dogma that says it's earth, wind, and fire?
Say it again.
Earth, wind, and fire.
It's also that too.
Okay.
But that's not. Now say the first part. What you say?
I said, is it dogmatic?
It's not dogmatic.
Okay.
That's truth.
Okay.
All right. That's religion. All right. Now I want you all to look at this too, because these are keys that I'm giving you. Because as we go along and we have some discussions, and we go into the social politics in the future, keep in mind that while someone may be talking to you politically, all priesthood got this and more as a canvas in their background. Are we clear? So when you're in the idea that you've trained to be in, that there's a separation of church and state, that's mind control, because there is no such thing. The state belongs to the church. Are we clear? So just get over yourself, and just get that very clear. Are we clear? All right. And again, I'm going to repeat this so that you don't miss this whatsoever. If Mr. Donald Trump was standing here, who's the CEO for the United States Service Corporation company that went bankrupt the 30th of September, and I was talking to him, and I'm a grand chief, I'd be talking to probably, I don't know what his degree is, but I know he's a nice temper. And there would be no dispute about our discussion, necessarily, maybe in front of you. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? If I was sitting here talking to Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, I'd say, go ahead, pour my coffee. Wouldn't be no argument. If I said I'm black and Negro, then he might get out torches and stuff.
That's right.
But I tell him I'm all white.
Oh.
Because I'm in honor. Now, because even though they have oath to see that the descendants of the Moors don't get into power, that's a political issue. But he don't necessarily hate you in the sense that a lot of people think. Do you understand what I'm saying? They hate niggers. Because niggers are traitors to themselves and everybody else. If you get the point. That's not who they are, that's who they agreed to be. Are we clear? If I was talking to a rabbi of the rabbinate, same plain read Jew, right? And I went into the science of my affairs, he wouldn't dispute. Do you know why? Because he got one too.
That's right.
He may not wear it when he go to the club. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And for those of you who might be mystified or spookified, Martin Luther King had one too. Jesse Jackson got one too. Reverend Sullivan, big time preacher, Reverend Gray, who was congresspeople, they got them too. They don't discuss it publicly because they claim to be Christians in the church and they're collecting people's finances. What Jesus has had that he never gets. Well, now that's the truth. Wardship DisSPELLere in this conversation is to liberate you from those things. Not to condemn or not to condemn you for ever believing them, but to understand and comprehend that you've been played, yes. Get over yourself. I'm not offering you something different or better, I'm just telling you the truth. You deal with it as you please to. For those who don't comprehend, I'm not asking for an agreement, I ask you to prove me wrong. With research, not with mere opinion. Nor with trolling for the CIA, with people that look like us. And in due time, they will be exposed. And I don't spend too much energy debating with them because their job is to distract you, to get defensive, to get off your key, or to get off your track. But when you're dealing with truth, you don't put your ego in it. You put the love of your people in it. You put the love of the generation coming to protect them. Even though they may not comprehend what you're saying at this moment, or at this time, or this cycle, it is necessary for those things to be presented for the liberation of humanity. For to liberate you is to liberate myself. And we owe this to each other. We owe it to those who came before us, and we owe it to those who come after, and we owe it to the eggs in the womb of every woman that's in this building, and women that are walking up and down the street who don't know they're the heirs to the world's largest estate, and they have been robbed over and over again by the priesthood who they've trusted, who working for Rome. And I'm not saying that to knock them, I'm just saying it because it's the absolute truth. Get over yourself. Please don't throw your sneaks at me, especially if you've been wearing them a long time. So Wardship DisSPELLere, and in the book, as you can see, I did the Romanic Latin word DisSPELLere, the way I spelled it, but that's deliberate. And Wardship is the state of being that most of the humans are in at this present time, particularly those who have been under Roman rulership and occupation, particularly in North America and anywhere where the Roman operatives are operating under colonial powers on Earth planet. All of which is being challenged now on a larger scale, both galactically and in the dimension that we are present. But I prefer not to, like get esoteric type thing, but I'm not into that too much. I understand it, comprehend it, but I think all things should be brought down to earth. They should be simple enough for a child to understand, to comprehend, in relationship to things that they do every day, and in relationship to their experiences. So, reality is this. The work of the Dark Priesthood has been so thorough that humanity is behind minimally a little over 500 years. Minimally. That's a minimum. That's being conservative. Are we clear? That reality, in fact, is not because the priesthood is smarter than you. It is because they spent so many decades and centuries burning books and exercising expurgatoris and prohibitorum, indexus librorum prohibitorum, indexus librorum expurgatoris, which they refer to you in the history books as the great Christian book burnings. And don't get caught up with the priesthood because they claim to be Christians because they're not Christians. Are we clear? They're Constantinians hiding behind our ancient Christian science. Are we clear? Are we clear?
Yeah.
This has much to do as to why the world has suffered the priesthood saying one thing and doing another. For those of you who have any quality of research, do some research and find the largest stockholder in the arsenals of death machines on Earth planet, you'll find is the church. They're the largest stockholder. Are we clear? And when you get this clear in your head and you start thinking that Rev who's collecting for Jesus really loves Jesus the way they've been telling you, I'm not knocking you, I'm just saying get over yourself. And if you love your children, don't do that to them. Don't do that to them. If they were telling the truth and if they were honorable and wanting good, because there's a lot of them. Don't misunderstand. I'm not painting all the priesthood with a brush of darkness. I'm just saying that they know this, what I'm saying to you. But yet, there's a lot of them that may use the different venues, whether it's the mosque, church, or synagogue, to do some good for humanity. But for the most part, all of them are dirty. And when I say dirty, I don't mean use toilet paper either. So get over yourself and understand the same creator that allowed them to be is the same creators that made you. They have no greater right to the creative forces than you do. Are we clear? And so when they start telling you that the creator's speaking to them and you need to come to them and get the phone number, because Jesus got a different iPhone than you type thing, don't buy it. But these are keys so that you can liberate yourself from the spookism that they have put on you for generations. Because a lot of people, even when they intend to try to liberate themselves, there's this subtle psychology that's still there, that they're guided by the solar systems. Not knowing that actually Romans had nothing to do with Yeshua. When he was 12 years old, and you see him disputing with the doctors of the law, that's the priesthood. They were doctoring up the books, doctoring up the law. And it is they who sell out the prophets. When no demon, devil came from the darkness of the earth, out of fire and brimstone, and then sold Jesus, that you've been told, to Rome. It was the priesthood. Are we clear? So get over yourselves and stop giving these people your finance, because divine truth does not cost. Are we clear? Doesn't mean the servant ain't worthy of her hire, or servant ain't worthy of his hire. But truth cannot be sold, cannot be bought. Birthrights cannot be sold or bought. Unalienable rights cannot be sold, bought, or transferred to another. And there is no commercial platform upon which the reclamation of such birthrights are made. They are made by proclamation to the ether world and to humanity, publicly honoring your mothers and your fathers to reclaim your lost estate. However, you must be sincere, so that nature herself comes to our aid. Are we clear? And that's how it's going to happen, you know. However, so Ruth the Moabitess, and you know that 3 and 9 is what?
12.
So 3 and 9 is 12, and so that's where you get your, I should erase some of this, but in a minute I will. This represents the ethereal, or things that are too fine for fleshly eyes to see. All right? And for those who can see, or those who are dealing with what you call the material plane, then you will see this. Are we clear? Are we clear? Then when you see you dealing with the Ano principle of positive and negative forces of the electrical universe, so you're also dealing with science of what you call electricity. So anode and cathode. However, for the priesthood, because they're dealing with mastering what you would call the physical plane, they make the pole south like that. The emphasis is put on the physical. Are we clear? And then they complete the squares of the triangles of the four corners of the earth. And so that is also called earth glyph. And when you're dealing with engineering, that's earth glyph. Are we clear? There's also circle 7. That's also the master seal. That's also the Coptic cross. Are we clear? That's science of the universe. That's not spookism. Are we clear? And so if I'm talking to a Grand Master in any of the orders, Knights Templar, Knights of Columbus, Thule Society, White Camellia, Caicos, Ku Klux Klan, DAR, White Camellia, they all recognize that. If you deal with believers, they'll start saying, I ain't into that because I'm Muslim. That's your stuff too. I'm Baptist. I don't eat peanut butter sandwiches on Thursday. We're out to lunch. Are we clear? All of this stuff is yours. Are we clear? The science hasn't been given to you. That's the key. Now, I want you to remember this. Now, this L will go here. So keep that in mind. Write that down because we're going to erase that. And those of you who can't remember to just take a flash picture of it. you know, even just take a flash picture for your studies for later. You know, because you're going to go in. Oh, all right. Brothers and sisters, guess you don't have to lean down when you come. Just come on up. Like, you know, like they ain't casting a shadow all up in the camera. You can't walk up. This is a soft cover of Kybalion. All right, this is a soft cover. Now, when you get the hardcover, it'll be blue. All of your Gnostic books will be in blue covers, dark blue. All right. Now, this is a soft cover. Soft cover. Now, this is one of your first tools for liberation. This is one of your first tools for liberation in what you would call the religious world. All right? Muslim, Christian, Jew, Buddhist, etc. This Kabbalistic knowledge is at the foundation, and they all have it. Are we clear? However, if we were having this conversation, and Baz Natsal Dinkel, Grand Poobah, Baz Basel, them like this, he would call Taji guys out to lunch, talking that ridiculous stuff. And in secret, he got all these books. You understand? And for his personal life, live accordingly. Are we clear? And promote the dogma for the believers who he rapes in the name of the Lord's, whichever flavor of ice cream they got you into. All right? And then they'll bend that flavor when you grow up a little bit. Then throw some cherries in it. Oh, yeah, this is different. I was saved before. Why didn't you give the body back? And the other guy just left. Did you give him the breath back while you was at it? Yeah, right. Please. Go ahead.
They can Google the Kybalion PDF.
I don't know if they can.
No, I got it. It's online.
Good.
It's a PDF for
Study
free.
and liberate yourself.
And it's on the drive, bro.
Say it again?
And it's on the drive.
And it's on the study drive.
All right. That's what that brother's all right, ain't he? He's a liberator. Thank you, good brother. Now, Wardship, which you all know, Wardship, W-A-R-D-S-H-I-P, is the political, social position that the general masses are held to by the priesthood, but they never talk to you bluntly like we're talking right now. Are we clear? This is the foundation of their arrogance when they're approaching you, when they're talking to you. Or when they talk down to you, they talk at you, like you don't know the Lord and they do type stuff. Like you're, little children, sheeple type thing. The reason they do is because they look at you as property. And incompetent. And in a total state of wardship, dependency, without power. And they promote that amongst you in order for them to empower themselves above you. Are we clear? The one you call Jesus, Yeshua, came to liberate you from that BS. Are we clear? And that man, that being, that light has been totally misrepresented to the planet, to the world. Are we clear? Are we clear? But Yeshua, Jesus, represents actually the activation of all your glandular systems in your body that actually affect the status system of your DNA that's actually to be awakened to another stage. Are we clear? And so on another level of truth, Yeshua or Jesus is your body. Are we clear? Collectively. And you beginning to have a consciousness of it, and a true consciousness of it. We're not talking spookiness. We're talking the actual glandular activation, particularly of your pineal gland, particularly, but also the medulla, and the pituitary. These glands combined have much to do with your, because the phrase is incorrect, but accept it connotatively, your spiritual evolution. Are we clear? Now, contrary to the priesthood, and with no thanks to them, has much to do why you've been stagnated. Because actually you're supposed to be more advanced than you are right now. Are we clear? And it has more to do with your own willpower, your own will, having been interrupted with dogma, where you stagnated your own self, thinking that you were becoming spiritual. Are we clear? However, because of the energies of Uranus and Saturn on the planet, in relationship to the bounce-off energies of the moon and the earth, you are in a state of ascension anyway now, anyhow. Another reason we chose this subject tonight is to, for those of you who start recognizing changes in yourself so that it doesn't frighten you. Because you're going to lose sense of value of a lot of these things that are current. You're not going to be as dedicated to them as you thought you were. So don't think that that's wrong. Do you understand? And don't think that you don't care. Are we clear? But the energy that you're dealing with now, for those of you who really studied religion for real, we're not talking about dogma, we're talking about real religion, and the ancient world, and the prophecies. You know that in past cycles, and we're talking a few millennia past, and you know that the ancient ones, and we too, measure time in cycles. The chronology of cycle. So you're going to have to relearn that, because the dark priesthood is going to be forced to demodify the calendars. And also tell you the truth about linear time, which you're not going to be dealing with. And it's not linear the way they've been telling you. So these are just keys I'm telling you to prepare for you, because the priesthood is fighting while we're fighting too. Are we clear? In past millennia, as you already know, Uranus ruled the Aquarian cycle, or the Aquarian star constellations. And at a time, Saturn ruled the Aquarian energies of that particular constellation of stars. The unique position that you're dealing with now is that Uranus and Saturn are both ruling the Aquarian constellation. And so that you're not, so that you understand true religion, so you understand what's up. All institutions, for the most part, will be tested to their very last hair grain. Whatever is, and whatever you claim, you will have to prove it. Whatever is presented as valid, as true on the planet, will have to prove itself. You say you're a surgeon, no debate. You better be who you claim. If you're not, it's coming down. And so understand that all dead institutions presented as living, which were really vampire systems, to suck the living, to convert the life of the living to the dead, and then sucked off of by the vampire priesthood. This is what their corporate entity operations have their actual service. It is to create a dead entity to suck the living, and for them to manage the dead and then suck the dead. And that's how they suck your life. Are we clear? So any corporate entity operations or persons that you deal with in North America in the background are vampires. Uncomfortable, or it might sound kind of weird to you right now, but that's the absolute truth. Fact of the matter is that platform is being dismantled. And so a lot of the politic reflections that you will see is not, it's bad and good at the same time. It's great and dreadful at the same time. Are we clear? So don't pine away as these institutions you have trusted begin to fall apart. For it is necessary for them to fall apart to take you where you need to be. In other words, they must be moved out of the way in order to liberate you. It's sort of like we've been in servitude under Rome for so many generations that we actually think liberation is enslavement. Or that we look at liberation as a threat. And it's because we have not known liberation, if you comprehend. Now, again, look at this and give me that dictionary. Get that dictionary back there. You got a dictionary? And I want anyone in the room that feels that they want to help us look up anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphic. Now, and this is very important too, because one of the keys to the priesthood's power over the masses is to keep the adults in anthropomorphic presentment of the books without explaining to them. Are we clear? All right, now when we have little children, you know, the 2 and the 3-year-olds, because at 3 you start telling them more truth. You know, because by 3 they start to read. I mean, if you're really teaching them, because most children can read at 2. You know, if their parents are sincere and really teaching them. If they're under the John D. Rockefeller system, they probably can't read until they're about 13. But you know, really, and even then they can't interpret words. They can pronounce, but they cannot. They have no etymon degree. But mothers who love their children, who teach their children the etymon degree at a young age, the children start reading 2.5, 3 years old, and start doing their thing. You know, like when we talk about Santa Claus's sleigh that's coming up. Well, anthropomorphic is that description for children. Are we clear? For adults who understand cosmogony and the study of the universe, they know it's the Big Dipper. Are we clear? The anthropomorphic is for children until they become capable of exercising a nature of fruition about themselves. Are we clear? The priesthood keeps the masses in the neophyte degrees or in the belief degrees purposely for their own selfish gain, and then tell the masses that belief is the quality of the fruition degree without telling them about fruition. Are we clear? Now, I'm not going to go into it too much, but I'm going to note these for you. Let me erase this. And I know most of you who have Wardship DisSPELLere already see the demonstration of the 3 candlesticks that are used in all secret societies when they're raising people in their degrees from in Kemet, Africa, Southwest Africa, Old Met, Central Africa, which you call the Yucatan, in the Grand Canyon, from time that time can be traced, or the cycles that are traced with the humans on this planet. All right? And so you have belief, and that's for children. And you have faith. And you can say that's for teens, if you will. You know, just above toddler. And fruition. And when you're a man and woman, meaning that any adults that have been truthfully taught religion are out of these degrees and are here. All priests, if somebody say to me they're grand chief or chiefess or a mason or grand matron or daughter of American Revolution, Hillary's a daughter of DAR, if I told you this, there would be no debate. I mean, it's not like they would come out and talk to you like I'm talking to you. But there ain't no debate, because you know I know that that's where she's at. Trump knows that I know that that's where he's at. And if I speak like this, he knows that I'm where I'm at. You understand? However, when they deal with the masses who they're raping in the name of the Lords of London, they deal with these 2 degrees. They don't take them no further than them 2 degrees. Matter of fact, the masses don't even know this degree exists. All they've ever heard of belief and faith. And the priest will keep them right there too. That's the truth. And that's what Jesus was arguing with them stealing the widow's pennies. Are we clear? That's why we're talking about Wardship DisSPELLere. And Wardship DisSPELLere, which means to break the spell. To dissolve the misconceptions that you have. Are we clear? Not to challenge your belief, but to challenge you to think with the divine mind given to you by your Creator. And stop faking it like you can't know better. And let's start fixing some things on this planet. And rebonding our families. And stop lying to our babies that they're saved when all they see is death, misery, jail, and drugs. Stop being hypocrites. Islam. Give it a mic. Yes. Can you come up here? If you will. If you come up here. Brothers and sisters, D.N.
I'd just like to make an addition or a correction.
Yes, thank you so much.
From Black's Law Dictionary, all right? The word adult in civil law. Oh, is that on?
No, hold this while you go ahead and see what you do.
All right. In civil law, adult means a male infant who has attained the age of 14, a female infant who has attained the age of 12. So, you know, we got to be correct about our language. So an adult is just an infant. So when we go to that degree, talking about get to the adult degree, we're still infants. We still have not made the transition to become full age, all right? So,
now you see here. MOORS-MUURS-MOORISCH, but he also says children.
right here.
Yes.
It's in here. Right here. Quran questions for Moorish children. That's what it says again. So this is what it is.
All right. Thank you. Anyway, the point that I'm making to you is it's uncomfortable for all of us because we've been trained for so many generations. However, it's incumbent upon us to prepare for radical changes that are taking place in that or it's going to hit you in the next few months anyway, anyhow. So get over yourselves and start looking at things, start studying. You know, like when they play with children, Sesame Street, and you see that little image, Elmo, and stuff like that, little talking dolls. But the human, that's called anthropomorphic. Are we clear? That's for children. Are we clear? The conversion of the priesthood from Yahshua to Jesus is anthropomorphic. To the Son is anthropomorphic. Are we clear? For those who don't quite understand what I just said, read the last book of the Bible, or Septuaginta, or the Old Testament, of the book of Malachi. It will have 4 chapters for the 4 gates. Are we clear? Only 4 chapters. And it will say, the Son of Righteousness arises with healing in his wings. Are we clear? And the priesthood kind of blew it because they forgot to make the transliteration into the anthropomorphic. And so you will see this. Because that's exactly what it is. The Son of Righteousness arises with healing in his wings. But it's also a little bit for the priesthood to kind of remove the karmic debt off themselves, so when challenged, because we're going to challenge them, and they're being challenged now. It was when we told them, all we did was call them, and they followed. They got brains just like we do. Well, you see right there in the Bible, it says the Son of Righteousness didn't say no S-O-N. You know, so now that kind of removes, it's sort of like criminals. And the same way the rule in administrative law or governance, where they create a color of authority operation or color of law and exercise a color of authority, that they always must leave some kind of remedy, even if they code it. For every regulation that they put upon humanity, that they must leave you a doorway out. For instance, like they've converted all of people's rights and liberties into crimes and into licenses, all of which is a fraud. And then they've taken the honor of honorable trade under commercial codes and then taken people's birthright and put it on a commercial venue and then offer you to step onto that venue and off the Constitution principle. But then they give you a remedy, say, well, UCC 309, 207 and stuff, and they will switch up after you learn a little bit.
Right.
But on the other hand, and then when they say, well, I've been dancing around with these codes forever, man, and they never gave me no sandwiches yet, and they still stealing my stuff. And they said, well, Constitution is supreme law of the land. Did you know that in 3rd grade? Well, yeah, but see, the Constitution ain't used no more because they dissolved it, and so now we got to do things on a commercial venue. Do you know that commerce means trade? Yeah. You're trading your birthright, because that's what that platform is. Trade. Commerce, trade. An unalienable right cannot be traded or sold. You cannot put a burden on it. So I called, you followed. What's up, right? And this is what Rome has been doing. And this is also what their minions have been doing, who've been working for them, stagnating your development. And knowing that this stuff continues, and knowing that they intend to continue, there's others, and there are none that's in this physical that have no issues. It's just different degrees. Some come for helping, some come for other lessons. However, there's enough champions that mothers have brought here that are countering Rome on such a large scale that the maintenance of the dark priesthood has no comfortable blankets anymore. You know what I mean? They say, I got a Serta mattress. It's certainly soft and stuff. You know, it's like, damn, they can't get comfortable. They stealing your pie, stealing your coffee and stuff, and it don't taste good no more. You know, they make bonds on you, then nobody wants to buy them anymore. See, it's like all the effort that the dark priesthood have put in place, the instruments, and the institution and the psychosis is turning in on them. It's sort of like, it is not unlike where the Kabbalists set up the counterfeit system for the dark priesthood in 16, in that area, 13, 16. And also they were doing it with other nation states so that they could control them. However, as an example, the Romans, in order to steal the rare herbs and tin, high quality tin, and other minerals from Laos and Vietnam, went in early around 1953, in that era of time, after the French were kicked out of Laos and Vietnam from Cambodia. And the Romans, so England, the Lords of London, Westminster, through their proxy, United States Service Corporation operatives who had been pretending to be a country, who were operating at Morocco, North America, went into Vietnam in around 53, robbing them. Now keep in mind, they've been doing this pattern for quite some time. They also created fiat currencies in the nation states of the other nation states in order to neutralize and control them. Now, getting to the point is this. While they created a lot of fiat that they controlled in order to neutralize other countries, what occurred is operatives in other countries start duplicating theirs. And so the fiat private commercial paper of the Jesuit order now has become a liability. Meaning that the fiat private commercial paper is only to the advantage of the producer as long as people don't understand what's behind it, or not. And it gets a point when they catch on, which they did, and they start producing it too, that they start using the private commercial paper against the producers of the private commercial paper that neutralize them. As an example, 60% of all new buildings in Manhattan, which the Europeans stole from us, is now under control of the Manchurian. 60% of all your commercial buildings. And most of your new buildings that's going on around the country are being erected with Chinese gold. Those of you who keep up with world politics, how many of you know about the London Whale? Or heard of the London Whale? That trader who they bumped off a couple years ago? That misused that Chinese gold to set up the euro thing. And this is back to the real politics of the world that most of our people here are not aware of because they're not told by those who control them. Well, people around the world know differently than most people here. Most people here are pretty asleep. You understand? Those who know that the United States Service Corporation of the Jesuit Order of Westminster, operating at Northwest North America, pretending to be a country, its owners, have been operating off of Chinese gold for the last 50 years. They have no treasury since 1922. And they've been creating over and over again corporation shells to imitate the Republic, which they overthrew in '61, in order to create their bond system against the descendants of the Moors, who they branded Negro, Black, Colored, and Indian, which is you. That's their whole politics. All right? So, the problem that they have is that the Manchurians are using their very system against them. and that was giving them what they've been giving everybody else. They're not doing anything wrong, they're giving them their own sandwiches back. They don't want their own stuff. As an example, when I was in Los Angeles, I went to Samuel Merritt University. I had to do a lecture at Samuel Merritt University, Sacramento. Then I went to Oakland. Tracy, Long Beach, San Francisco. You've seen the ships out there in the ports, all out there along the horizon with stuff on them from last year. And the problem, well, that was last year's stuff.
Last year's Christmas.
Yeah, what was happening was, is that, now those are the largest ports in the north. Manturians don't let that. So when they told you here, who don't know the real politics, that there was a strike, no, not really. No, they weren't. They told me, you got $5 in silver, you got gold bullion, and we don't want no tungsten either. And so that's why them chips are sitting out there. Anyway, so Target, as an example, the Target Corporation stores that you all see with the Target. And all of them in Canyonland closed. And they've been sending the stock down here so these can look like they're still busy until they're getting ready to run out.
That's right.
And in some of your bigger stores, you're going to start seeing them moving stuff to the front of the shelves.
What's going on now?
Look forward, look beyond.
Say it came out. Casey Penn.
Well, it's getting ready to accelerate because you only had, because remember, this is the politics. And I won't linger on this too long, but you need to understand that which is operative in the spiritual realm reflects in the physical, but it is done first in the spirit. All right? And if you're not afraid of yourself, if you just be yourself, you'll know these things far ahead of time and prepare yourself. All right? Now, they've had stock that's for like Sears, Kmart, and others that they hit them up a few times and they have to now convert their fiat currency for the few vassal states operatives that they still control to a limited degree to convert to gold or silver back or some commodity back currency to kind of keep this thing going on. They went bankrupt again September the 30th. Nobody will back them because of the constant wars, the Roman wars, and the unum sanctum policy. And so, Mr. Trump, with all due respect, is on a begathon. And this is what it is, so that you'll understand the politics. Though he's a made man, he's also a Knights Templar, and they also have some ancient little beef going on between them and the Vatican and the High Priesthood. Even though they're still made men, you understand? So Trump is wearing two masks. To the good that he will do, that he must do. Whether it comes from his heart or not is irrelevant. If they're going to get anything, that's what must be done. They were just given a token to keep this thing rolling a little bit longer. With some of these contracts that you hear them talking about, they're given a few billion. nothing that can even touch or even cover the 1.5 trillion so far for 17. So, and the reason, most of you know this already, but I'm just telling you anyway, because what you're seeing reflected in the political realm takes place first in the spiritual realm. So, from the spiritual realm, on many fronts, Rome is already defeated. It's just that you don't see the manifest. But while the manifest shift is taking place, that it can be cognate to the average person in the material, this is, you can call an opportunity. It's not necessarily that, because that kind of be the wrong word. But it's almost like what is already done is done, but also gives opportunity to measure sincerity for those who are worthy. And that would be said to you in the Bible in this way: the meek will inherit the earth. And what it really means is certain things have already been done. As this transition is taking place, and you will be put under a lot of pressure, your sincerity will determine the outcome, though the outcome is already stated, meaning that whether you get through the gate. And we ain't talking about, going to heaven type thing that way. We're talking about the restoration of the estate on the earth, because the kingdom is on the earth in the physical. So the Wardship DisSPELLere is also to dispel that spooky notion that the priesthood set up that you got to go someplace else to ascend, that you have to go someplace else to enjoy the life that the creators gave to you. And so the real history of the human species is also going to be revealed. And so when you look in the book of genetics, what you call Genesis, that's the book of genetics. And it says, let us make man. You're going to find out who that us is. And it's plural. So you're charged as stewards of the planet. And so I want to share with you some of the Kabbalistic knowledge of the Circle 7 Quran, our illustrious prophet, Noble chapter 1. And hopefully you take some notes and you will see some of the ancient wisdom that's in it. While it's called the creation and fall of man, it is also the rise. Are we clear? And I want to give you note to this, to remove some skepticism which will exist when people have been, educated different ways. In the ancient world, before the Roman priesthood neutered the books, are we clear? The concept of what you will call God now is a help situation and not a superior position as presented today. Are we clear? Meaning that man is assigned as steward on the earth planet. Are we clear? So when you're talking about the Lord, you're talking about man. Are we clear? You're assigned as stewards on the planet. And so you have an obligation to care for her as she does for you. Are we clear?
Clear.
All high priests, not all of them, not publicly, but in the nature of their order, are lords. Are we clear? When the people on the planet have been praying to the Lord, most of them had no idea that Reverend Jones was actually directing them to the Lord Governors of London under the secret treaty of Verona. Are we clear? Their mind was Jesus and Allah and Moses and stuff in heaven, of the Lordness of goodness of salvation. No, it's Lords of London. This is why you've been so miserable. It's also why you've been broke. It's also why you've been poor, hungry, and stealing your houses, gentrifying your neighborhoods, packing the jails with you, the drugs, killing your babies, sterilizing your women at a young age, lynching you and everything else. A bunch of salvation going on, wasn't it? Yeah, right. You know, now, of course, children grow up and they start seeing the hypocrisy of their parents. Their children in their heart recognize the only reason why the parents let this go on because Rome is their God. No Jesus, their God. They fear Rome. Rome is nigger God. They won't buy, they won't sell, they won't breed, they won't move without a license from Rome. They fear Rome, not some Jesus. They lie to their children and then grow them up and send them to war to keep Rome in power, and then come back and do Negro marches all over the place. Because they don't have rights while helping to steal the rights of other humans on the planet. They think that the divine order didn't recognize them for the hypocrites that they are. Why nobody likes niggas? Because they're hypocrite and liars. And they go to and fro to earth, devouring nations for Rome, and then come back and do Negro marches because they don't have no rights either. I think Geronimo can tell you something about that. That's why they use his bones and stone bones. Just a reminder to all. So Wardship DisSPELLere is to set these facts in order. There's no separation of church and state because the state belongs to the church. Number one. Number two, the books that have been presented to you in the name of religion are for the most part anthropomorphic, and it is known that they're anthropomorphic. It doesn't make them wrong. Are we clear? They're anthropomorphic. Are we clear? And they're not the books of Constantine, they belong to your forefathers. As a matter of fact, what you call the Bible is a synopsis of the knowledge from the last high priest of ancient Central America, i.e. Al-Barak, Old Amexo, Moor-Luakinio. And it is known by all priests. And the assignment from Aunt Hagar of him and to him, and also to Hammurabi Bey, with the preserved codes of law for the children of Israel, which is one of the problems that you have of why the hybrids have been mistreating you as of late under what you call white supremacy. So you gotta also know their motivations too. And that's because of the stern laws of Hammurabi against the children of Israel, which are hybrids, which you've been calling red men or Rome men, who've been ruling you on your own land. Are we clear? Your redemption is the restoration of your estate. Much of it has to do with your unity and your love for each other and your sincerity. All right? So let's go into chapter 1. Know thyself and thy Father God Allah. The genealogy of Jesus with 18 years of the events, life, works, and teachings in India, Europe, and Africa. These events occurred before he was 30 years of age. These secret lessons are for all of those who love Jesus and desire to know about his life, works, and teachings. Dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. They are for good, peace, and happiness for all those that love Jesus. Dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones that they may learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons you can set your house in order, and your children will learn to love instead of hate. The lessons of this pamphlet are not for sale, but for the sake of humanity. As I am a prophet, and a servant is worthy of his hire, you can receive this pamphlet at expense. The reason these lessons have not been known Are we clear? It's not they haven't been known by the priesthood, but by the masses. Reason these lessons have not been known is because the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And when the time appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys and freed the secrets. And for the first time in ages have these secrets been delivered in the hands of the Muslims of America. All authority and rights of publishing this pamphlet, 1927. Creation and fall of man. Pay attention to the paragraphs in your own time. Take the paragraphs, break them down, use an etymological dictionary, use Oxford's etymology on the English language, use American Heritage Dictionary on the English language minimally. Also use your thesaurus and your lexicons as a standard of operations and studies. And never forget the etymon is the mother is the seed, and an etymon to language is what a seed is to life. Are we clear? All scholars know that, now you know that. Third grade grammar. Go ahead.
I just wanted to assist from Sergeant.
Can you get a mic?
Yeah.
Come on up here.
All right. I'm saying, as far as the etymology degree is concerned, they have there's a website.
Yeah.
There's a website. It's Etymon Line. It's Etymon, ETYMON LINE. And you can actually go and find the etymology there as well, along with the books. And there's a tab at the bottom when you go to that website called Introductions and Abbreviations. And it'll give you a morphology.
Good.
As well.
Good. And keep this in mind, that's very important. And what Brother Hassan just shared with us is a standard amongst all scholars, all clear. That's a standard. And so true scholars don't excuse other scholars who are writers and stuff, who keep on putting a black brand on our people, pretending that they think that our people are black, knowing that it's still their birthright, but knowing they can't read, and so they don't know that these people are working for Rome. Because from childhood they were trained that this is some esoteric, deep, Kabbalistic carbon of the universe of the blackness of the spirit of Allah. No, this person held to servitude.
That's right.
State property. And persons held as non-descendable, which is why the brand is put in place in the first place. And this is also why a lot of operatives, trolls that CIA pays, and the Southern Christian Poverty Law Center pays Negro black guys to attack this information. And if you do a little research on them, you'll start finding where their jingling comes from. It's uncomfortable. Because they know that our people aren't black, and they're trying to promote it because many of them are charged with writing black books, making our people think they were helping them when they were actually putting them under the black codes. It's sort of like creating, like somebody who sells wells, and in the middle of the night while you're sleeping, they come in and put arsenic in your well, and then next week they come in to sell you need a new well. This is pretty much what it is, what they've been doing. The same way, as an example, where the military operatives use nitrate and use high fructose syrup and sodas and target certain communities and then create diabetes and then sell diabetes treatment and pig loins and pig pancreas in order to counter. And also the same thing where they promote the eating of the pig and then turn around and use the pancreas when the people get high blood pressure to make the serum and the insulin because the people get sick. Not unlike, you get rattlesnake poison to counter rattlesnake bite infection. Same thing, So, and me and Dr. Nailah was talking about earlier, you know, for those of you who don't know, but just for those of you who do know, and it's a reminder, semantics and connotative linguistics is deliberately introduced into such targeted communities to make sure that such persons and their children or offspring shall be locked in an invisible fence in perpetuity, as long as they don't know the rules. Are we clear? That's why the etymon degree is so important. All right? So let me read through chapter 1 and then pay attention and take notes later. Creation and fall of man. Time never was when man was not. If life of man at any time began, a time would come when it would end. The thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. No finite mind can comprehend things infinite. All finite things are subject unto change. All finite things will cease to be because there was a time when they were not. The bodies and the souls of men are finite things, and they will change. Yea, from the finite point of view, the time will come when they will be no more. But man himself is not the body, nor the soul. He is a spirit and a part of Allah. Creator fate gave to spirit man, a soul that he might function on the plane of soul. Gave him a body of the flesh, that he might function on the plane of things made manifest. Why did creative fate give to spirit man a soul that he might function on the plane of soul? Why did creative fate give to soul a body of the flesh, that he might function on the plane of things that are made manifest? Hear now, ye cherubim, ye seraphim, ye angels, and ye men. Hear now, O protoplast, and earth, and plant, and beast. Hear now, ye creeping things of earth, ye fish that swim, ye birds that fly. Hear now, ye winds that blow, ye thunders, and ye lightnings of the sky. Hear now, ye spirits of the fire, of water, earth, and air. Hear now, O everything that is, or was, or evermore will be. For wisdom speaks from out of the highest plane of spirit life. Man is a thought of Allah. All thoughts of Allah are infinite. They are not measured up by time. For things that are concerned with time begin and end. The thoughts of Allah are the everlasting of the past unto the never-ending days to come. And so it is, man, the spirit man. But man, like every other thought of Allah, was but a seed that held within itself the potencies of Allah, just as the seed of any plant of earth holds deep within itself the attributes of every part of that special plant. So spirit man, as seed of Allah, held deep within himself the attributes of every part of Allah. Now seeds are perfect, yea, as perfect as the source from which they come. But they are not unfolded until life made manifest. The child is as perfect as the mother is. So man, the seed, must be deep planted in a soil that he might grow, unfold as does the bud unfold to show the flower. The human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah was foreordained to be the Lord of plane of soul and of the plane of things made manifest. So Allah, the husbandman of everything that is, drew forth this human seed unto the soil of soul. It grew apace, and man became a living soul, and he became the Lord of all the kingdom of the soul. Hark now, let every creature hear. The plane of soul is but the ether of the spirit plane vibrating not so fast. And in the slower rhythm of this plane, the essences of life are manifest. The perfumes and the odors, the true sensations, and the all of love are manifest. And these soul attributes became a body beautiful. A multitude of lessons man must learn upon the plane of soul, and here he tarries many ages until his lessons are all learned. Upon the boundary of the plane of soul, the ether began to vibrate slower still, and then the essences took on a final garb. The perfumes and the odors and the true sensations and the all of love were clothed in flesh, and man was clothed in flesh. Perfected man must pass through all the ways of life, and so a carnal nature was full manifest, a nature that sprang forth from fleshly things. Without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength, and thought must be developed by the exercise of strength. And so this carnal nature soon became a foe that man must fight, and he might be the strength of Allah made manifest. Let every living thing stand still and hear. Man is the Lord of all the plane of manifest, of protoplast, of mineral, of plant, of beast, but he gave up his birthrights just to gratify his lower self. But man will regain his lost estate, his heritage, but he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. Yea, he must suffer trials and temptations manifold, but let him know that cherubim and seraphim that rule the stations of the sun and spirit of the mighty Allah, who rule the solar stars, are his protectors and his guide, and they will lead to victory. Man will be fully saved, redeemed, perfected by the things he suffers on the plane of flesh and on the plane of soul. When man has conquered carnal things, his garb of flesh will then have served its purpose well, and it will fall, will be no more. Then he will stand untrammeled on the plane of soul, where he must full complete his victories. Unnumbered foes will stand before man upon the plane of soul. There he must overcome, yea, overcome them every one. Thus hope will ever be his beacon light. There is no failure for the human soul, for Allah is leading on and victory is sure. Man cannot die. The spirit man is one with Allah. And while Allah lives, man cannot die. When man has conquered every foe upon the plane of soul, the seed will have full opened out, will have unfolded into the holy breath. And the garb of soul will then have served its purpose well, and man will need it nevermore. And it will pass and be no more, and man will then attain unto blessedness of perfectness and be at one with Allah. Islam. In chapter 1, it tells you the creation, fall of man, but it also gives you keys to the rise. It also gives you the keys to the truth of religion, gives you the keys to the truth of your obligation of stewardship on the planet Earth. And when you go back into the ancient books, etc., you will find that philosophy is rooted from time immemorial among us. And so the priesthood has put man into darkness and gave him an outer God of the outer world that he controls, that must be bought with sacrifice and finance all the time. And this is the anthropomorphic miseries that the priesthood has put on the planet Earth. And so the truth of prophecy is for the prophets to redeem humanity from the priesthood, who is the demon. And that's the truth. Wardship DisSPELLere. Are there any questions? Are we cool? Good. Any questions from the audience? Because I know there probably is. Go ahead, good brother. Give the brother a mic.
Islam, Mr.
Islam family.
Could you explain hybrid?
Hybrid. All right, I'm giving you a key already. Now, in your Oxford Dictionary, your earlier ones, and as you already know, because the priesthood has been on the unum sanctum operations of dumbing the people down, you know, this is why real scholars always get older books. Go into your Oxford Dictionary. I want you to look up hybrid, and what you will see, it'll be about the 8th entry, and you already know that the Lord Governors always have systematically, on behest of the priesthood, taken the denotations and pushed them down in the entry column. And so when you go into your dictionaries in the contemporary era, your etymology will be pushed to the bottom, which would usually be missed by persons who are not studious and whose attention span is short. And so they will take the connotative entries, which are usually listed 1, 2, 3 like that, as meanings, and they're really not meanings, they're presentments. And some etymologists and grammaticists will present connotative presentments as meanings, but I would not. I think it's best, particularly for the children, to protect them, is not to call connotative presentments as meanings, but call them presentments. When you're going into studying words, the denotation is meaning, and that would harmonize with the etymon and the etymology, which you will find usually at the bottom. So, like you go into an Oxford, as an example, and you will find the etymology near the bottom, somewhere around 7 or 8, you know, and we'll say, we Englishmen, at best, are but heterogeneous hybrids. In other words, the Romans know they're hybrids. Our people don't know that. That's what confuses our people. Because our people think that people are different just because of complexion. Do you understand? Now, and so the different anthropological designations that's given to the species, like Aboriginal, then Indigenous, then Occidental, distinguished from Oriental. You know, so when you're dealing with Occidental, you're dealing with hybrid. When you're dealing with Oriental and Aboriginal, you're dealing with the people of the land and the land of the people of one. So the difficulties that the humans are having, for the most part, is not knowing the truth of the hybrid experiments that took place in the Yucatan. And that Germanic actually means red man. So when you're talking about the Romans, like in the Bible, that lynched the prophets and stuff like that, they're talking about the Paleolithic man. Paleo, Blake, block, blanket, blue is the black man. So the pale man is really the black man. What he's done is traded places with those who can't read. Then you go into the etymology of hybrid, and then it will send you to the scientific name of the caveman Paleolithic, which is troglodyte nigger. Then you go into troglodyte, and you'll see troglodyte nigger is Anthropopithecus pongidae, caveman, i.e. it's the European. And they're not really Europeans either, because we are too. It is because they were put under the administrative authority of Queen Europa in the land of the Angles. And when you go into the hybrid history, and you'll hear Anglican, these phrases, Anglican, or even England, it's actually Angla, land, Englot land. What you call England is Englot land, Albion. It's Albion. And so when the Moors ruled, what is known as England today was really Albion. And the technology for the hybriding was pretty much mastered in what you call the land of the mixing, which is why you hear code by anthropologists, and they'll call the Americas the melting pot, the great melting pot. That's signifying the hybriding. And the technology for the hybriding was mastered in the Yucatan, in the complexes, the scientific complexes in Old Central Amexem, which you see Old Mech, that's Old Central Amexem, that's actually Central America. And this is why you'll see the anthropologists will give you very little information on the ancient cities in ancient Amexem. They let them grow over, they didn't destroy them, they let them grow over, they didn't ever tell you about them. And one of our largest pyramids was in what you call today Mexico City. That pyramid was so large that they built cities with it. When the Romans, because one of the things that Rome committed to do when they began to conquer the world was to dismantle that pyramid of the sun. And North America, one of the ancient cosmological phrases that, or what you call attributes that we call our land, is the temple of the moon and sun. The land of flowers, what you call Florida, that's the land of flowers. This is where we have a lot of our exotic plants for healing. Here in at Morocco, what is the kingdom of the shift, Algiers, Tunis, Sierra Leone, you will find the soil identical to the soil in the land of flowers because that all part was before the great cocoa shift. But anyway, the troglodyte nigger is the scientific name for the Pangidae, Anthropopithecus, black chimpanzee, negro diaverarebo monkey. And this is where Charles Darwin, the naturalist, and many of your German anthropologists and naturalists signify the origin of the Albion humans. And they'll loosely say, well, man came from the chimp. You know, what they really mean, the Roman came from the chimp, mixed with humans. And this is why many of our people who don't know the human experience on the earth get confused when Europeans sometimes can act quite congenial in one moment, and next moment eat your baby, and it gets kind of confusing. You know, that's also part of, like, when you look in the book of genetics, what you call Genesis, you go into 2 and 7. 2 and 7 is 9, chapter 27. And read about Rebecca, Isaac, Esau, Jacob, and the theft of the birthright. Also, when Rebecca, you know, entreated Allah that she was having trouble, you know, with the children that she asked for. And you'll see in the book of genetics, it will say, in your womb, you have 2 different nations, 2 different manner of people. Didn't say twins. 2 different nations, 2 different manner of people. And then you see one come out, and then the other come out ruddy, red, and holding his heel, that's symbolic of the anthropomorphic, the experiments of the Yucatan, the amalgamation. Also, you can go in the Bible, just print in amalgamation, and then look at the different sections where Allah is challenging us, saying, look what you have wrought. You know, you go in the house, we'll deal with this later. I'm going to deal with this right now. We ain't done. You know, like a parent telling you, you know, oh, now you understand also why the priesthood removed the book of Enoch and also the books of Moses, which are alchemy, so that the people don't know the real science of them books. The priesthood do though. The books ain't wrong. They're misrepresented. Again, Wardship as DisSPELLere is to remove the mystery and give you, encourage you enough to study on your own. So the hybriding is really what would be called amongst anthropologists the human bouquet. Therefore, they'll just code it like this. They'll say the whole human family originates from the African woman. They'll just say it like that. Or they'll say it come from Lucy. Or they'll say the whole human family comes from Africans. Right, and not totally clear. So the hybrid is the European. Go ahead.
Question, online question. This person says, Brother Jarrell Bey, it says, being that Thanksgiving just passed, could you ask Brother Taj to go, well, he wants you to discuss the so-called pilgrims and the origin of Thanksgiving and the connection to one of the 7 deadly sins, gluttony.
Pilgrim is peregrinus, which means wandering stranger. The word pilgrim comes from peregrinus, which is a name that we gave to the hybrids when they came in from the south, because they attacked us from the south, from Isabella. Isabella, now called Cuba. They come up through the south, and then through the lands of flowers, and you're going into what is known as the 12 bodies, politics of the Franciscan Brotherhood, the German Dutch.
You're in America.
Yeah, in the north. They come from the south. Essentially, back up a little bit. This is the perfected technology for the hybriding, which included plant life too. The actual physicality was in Patagonia. And Patagonia in the modern world would be called Argentina. Those of you who are scholars know that the maps were changed by the Dutch, German in order to confuse the world, but all adepts know the truth, including flipping the north to the south.
That's right.
You know, so, but what you call Argentina is Patagonia. And this has much to do when the Khazarian operatives of persons claimed to be Jews and are not Jews that was raping Germany and destroying Germany, and Hitler nationalized Germany, and one of the destinations of the Khazarian breed of the hybrid, they went to Argentina, to the Falkland Islands, and they didn't let them off them ships.
That's right.
And then they said, you don't get us some land, we're going to tell them who they really are, making reference to these people here that think human beings are crayons.
That's right.
Who is the real Jew, but they ain't Jews. The real Yahudi, the real heirs of the estate. So the whole modern world is a lie. The whole modern politics of the world is a lie. And though the word is misused, and it's not really like they're saying, these people who think they're Negro, black, and colored is really the Jews. They're really the Canaanite Moabites the ones with hair like lamb's wool, that when one came to them to redeem them, he said, I come amongst my own and they receive me not. They want Rome. Now they got Rome. They got Roman names, Roman dogma, thinking they got religion, and they're serving Rome lock, stock, and barrel. They have no estate whatsoever. But when their prophet came, they gave him the finger. So Rome took and faked Zeus as the prophet they assassinated, renamed the books, called him Jesus, and they really hate him. That's why they will never use Yahshua. And these people here that think they Negro, black, and colored, they're Moabite too. Moabite is the ancient name for Moors, Al-Moroccan. Moabite, that's why in all secret societies, Masonry, Illuminati, Knights Templar, Quakers, Ku Klux Klan, Union Guard, one of the first lessons they get, Ruth the Moabitess, Yahshua's great-great-great-grandmother. And the only ones that don't know they Moabites too is the people who rejected Jesus. Same bloodline, they want to be Romans. They catching hell, ain't they? Because they can't damn read, they call it racism and prejudice, don't they? But they think they're victims, aren't they? No, they're in dishonor. So they're kind of getting what they kind of damn deserve. They sold out and got their asses kicked. Let's keep it simple. That's why nobody likes black people. They ain't black, that's just a tag. You get the point? The redemption is to honor your mothers and fathers once more. That's what nationalization is. You know, like the book says, the time has come that every man, every woman, every child must confess their own and worship under their own vine and fig tree. In common civic language, it's called nationalization. How many of you think that goes right over their head? Most people it goes over their head because they can't damn read. And they don't know the real history. Meanwhile, the priesthood knows all of this stuff. They get a 501c3 kickback set up by Lyndon Baines Johnson to control his marching Negro leader guys, overseer guys. Run around talking about they love Jesus. $3,000 suits, 2 cars, bump off everybody in the choir. And secret rituals, eat babies and stuff. And these people talking about, I love Jesus-ness. No, they're full of doo-doo. And they really need to be called to the carpet. Wardship, DisSPELLere. Sort of hybrid is the European. Alright? And it doesn't make him wrong. You understand? That's why your man, he's mankind. But when you get the knowledge, don't misuse that knowledge. Alright? Alright? So now you know why all secret societies wear the Moorish fez. Because you've been conquered. And so this is why they'll take the cross and they'll put it through the crown. And it says, in hoc signo vinces. In this sign, we conquer. That's what the Crusades is all about. That's when we come from the Punic Wars to the Battle of Tours, 732 near Poitiers, France, to the Battle of Lake Michigan, 1812. The Baton Rouge, last ship of the Moorish Navy that fell. And now the Moors, all the niggers, blacks, and coloreds, and think human beings are crayons, don't even know they're the heirs to the world's largest estate. And all the rest of the world belong to secret societies, study your knowledge, wear your fez, and rule over you with your own stuff. And anything that's knowledgeable, they call it the devil, and we stay away from it. That's how they keep us in defense. Wardship, DisSPELLere. Now, that is the truth. Handle it. Your point? That's why anybody that's in power must be a Mason and wear a Moorish fez while pretending they don't know these people are Moors. And take death oaths to the Pope of Rome, who is the god of the planet, who's being just removed from that position right now. That's what the politics is happening. Are we clear? So therefore the heirs must have a cleaner mind. They must have some purity of heart. You know, the anger must be moved. Because we're not totally innocent. Yeah, Rome has been kind of screwing us a little bit. But we're not innocent. We gave up our birthrights. This is why, like all members of the DAR, when you go to Washington, D.C., that marble building, even the marble steps with the marble pillars, everything is marble. You ever heard of Dolly Madison? You ever go in there and see her turban and her fez? She's a little woman. You know who Dolly Madison is? That's during the American Revolution. The Asiatic women, they can cook and they can sweep the floor, but they can't be members. Only European women who can prove to be descendants from the harems of the Moors. That's why you see with this new marriage that's taking place in England, they're starting to say that sister is the bloodline of Castile from the Moors, because that's who the sovereign is. The Europeans starting to tell the whole truth a little bit at a time. The deal of it is you got to get our people to stop faking it and to stop being afraid. This era is the time for truth. There's no need to be afraid anymore. Honor your mothers and your fathers that your days may be longer upon the earth land, which the Lord thy God has given thee. And you can choose not to, and anyone who chooses not to, they have that absolute right. However, they will be fuel, fodder, and fertilizer. So be it. So mote it be. Wardship, DisSPELLere.
Islam, does the recent events of disclosures of sexual abuse and harassment in the political and entertainment field, does that have anything to do with
the changing of the guard?
The times that we're...
It is the changing of the lords. It is the changing of the guards. Go ahead. Give him the mic. In other words, in the ethereal world, as the lords of Pisces are shift. It's not wrong. Because remember, in the energy of Pisces, where the priesthood had ruled supreme, it is the degree of I believe. However, you're in the Aquarian light. The sun is at high noon. Read Religious Controversy by Noble Drawley. That'll give you insight to what's really going on. The sun stands at high noon. There is no shadow. Therefore, anything that is in the shadow shall be open. There shall be no stone unturned. There's nothing that can be hidden. So even though the priesthood still have power, they lose because they can't win. So you have a shifting of the guard. And the comfort and care for humanity is that it be done in increments so that they don't crack up. Because if the shift was really shown to them now, most people couldn't handle it. Not that they can't, but according to where they are in their evolutionary stage. You know, so that they're balanced, so that they can come into this new era of light in balance. And so again, in layman's terms, in an anthropomorphic presentment, you have angels and devils in a big fight right now. Like for real. Like for real. But that's not being presented in the spooky realm. We're talking about real life. And the masses, for the most part, they're feeling it, but they're unaware. But they get ready to feel it like heavy. There's another reason why we're doing this. Because it's incumbent upon us. We can't stop the bloodshed. We can reduce it. And the people will reduce it by their honor. Rome will devour them if they cannot move to honor. If they cannot move to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If they cannot be fair to Rome even. This is a thing that we all have a problem with, all of us. Overcoming that anger, you know, and learning to love instead of hate. But it's important to know the history so that we can handle it a little better. You know, because it is here. It's not coming, it's here. You know, so what you have is the Aquarian light coming in. There are no shadows. And so in the Aquarian constellation is I know. So the babies are going to be brought here knowing anyway. You know, so now the European will call them ebony children. You know, but some came before. You know, and all of them didn't have to come. Some came back to help. But some of them have already worked their profits out, at least on this level. But then, you know, we got a lot of, the problem that we have is we still have a lot of feeders. And the feeders have to be, you have to give them an opportunity to wash. However, if they don't wash, we have to disappear them. And that's really what's going on in reality now. And so since Rome is ruling from the 7 hills, and the 7 hills is presented by Pope to the operatives of the coup d'etat, which is for the Roman goddess Columbia, that's Washington, D.C. It must be dismantled to save humanity. You know, and now beneficiaries of the corruption don't want that to happen.
Right.
And some who don't understand what's going on also don't want that to happen. However, if they're to live, it must die. So dogma must die for humanity to live. Connotatively, they would say religion must die for humanity to live. But the masses never got religion, they always had dogma. And so you must qualify, you must know the difference. You know, so these subtleties, semantic subtleties, are what the priesthood must stop doing their selfishness and honestly tell and teach the people for real and liberate them from themselves. Make no more followers. It's like Drawley said. No, Drawley said this. Some of the grand sheiks have followers. Some of the sheiks have followers. Some of the governors have followers. But I, your prophet, have no followers. Study that and study what he meant by it. He didn't come to make followers. He came to liberate you, to make you priests unto yourselves. How's that done? By telling you the secrets that the priesthood has kept from you. So now you need not be naive. You get the point? In other words, it is not unlike Yeshua. See, the priesthood was pissed at Yeshua. He came to them, giving them opportunity to tell the truth, because they know the truth. They held the truth back on the masses. While they sucked on the masses, they are feeders, they are vampires. And so he came to them and requested of them to do their honor. They gave him the finger. So he knocked the dust off his heels, tarried not, took it to the common people. And so they murdered him, because he was a threat to them in Rome, because in secret, the priesthood and Rome are partners, and always have been. And telling the people that they're separate. So when you see a politician, you're looking at a high priest. You see somebody say they're a senator, you're looking at a high priest, except they're a dark priest. That's the problem. See, the problem is, see, the sun shines on the good as well as the evil, which means the powers are neutral. But the knowledge of the power and the misuse of the power is really what we're discussing. Thus, Wardship, DisSPELLere. That's the purpose. Is to remove the mystery of the God game and also not allow the priesthood to be looking in your face acting like they're lovely, beautiful, Afrocentric black leaders while putting the black tag on you and getting paid from Rome to do that and making your children think it means African identity. When it puts them under the Christian black codes and make them state properly by consent. Then when Rome feeds on them, then they want to march all over the place. When they need to honor their mothers and fathers. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And them same other fake people claim to be somebody not. After Hitler started cooking them, they heard about nationality, didn't they? Even though they made one up. Yeah. So people ain't telling the real truth about Hitler either. Much of that information is misrepresented. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are mad at Hitler. You know why? Some of them say they mad at him for not finishing the job. But now everybody else is suffering from the things that they didn't know about what was going on today. So I'm saying people now destroying the economies of many countries around the world. And they ain't Jews, they just been hiding behind it. The demons. Now that's the real politics. All right? So now we got problems with the hypocrites. Plus they've been eating your babies. All the children been disappearing. A lot of people don't know when they go to fast food places, burgers, they're doing cannibals. Eating their own babies, don't even know it. This is why, again, why people are having aneurysms, they're starting to regress in their thinking powers, losing memory, Alzheimer's, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not just aluminum pots. It's because they're eating babies. It's not natural, eat your own. So the Europeans, you know, they're disappearing children. And matter of fact, look this up. Look up Rabbi Finkelstein.
Yep.
And find out. As a matter of fact, they tell the truth, and he says these people are so hypocritical that you can tell them the truth and they'll still go about it because they're hypocrites. Feed them their own babies. Boy, these double whopper and stuff. Half price. Yeah, 2 for 1? Oh man, this is tight. All kind of sicknesses and stuff. Yeah, and they're cold-hearted too. And they pretty much treat each other that same way too. Fratricidal. You know, it's back to even some of the psychology. Dr. Nailah, we were talking about, you know, people fixing up. And then the people in their lower self, animal form, destroying the buildings. You paint, they write all over it.
Right.
You know, they're living negative life. They have no sense of value because they don't know themselves. And this is back to what you were saying earlier. They need to know the real history. But anyway, let's look at this. They went, when Hitler nationalized Germany, as you already know for you all to do your research, after World War I, Treaty of Versailles, Germany could not have a standing army. There was people that was in there had no loyalty whatsoever that was raping Germany to death. The ultimate political power to save a nation is called nationalization all over planet Earth. So Hitler nationalized Germany to save it. He gave the culprits an opportunity to leave. So he supplied ships and whatever other methods they needed to go. They went to Falkland Islands, they went to England, they went to Cuba, a few other places, no places of which they let them off them ships. Some of them committed suicide, but the general commitment was to tell those persons called black and niggers who they really are. So U.S. corporation, Britain and France went into Palestine, changed the maps, started a war of genocide, stole land, and made a fake nation called Israel. And there's been trouble in the East ever since. Are we clear? You know, so that's the real politics. And all of this stuff is coming to a head. Now the world is now tired of them. Problem is they got advanced toys. You understand? The other problem is the world has been behind the 8 ball because the priesthood has got all them books that they stole from Alexander when they conquered Africa and the Moroccan Empire, and they've been ruling the world with Moorish science. And so they're like hundreds of years ahead of these people. However, so are the Manchurians. So So what you have is kind of like two Muhammad Ali's in the ring. Now they in either one's interest to keep this up. Sort of like that. However, also, which we mentioned before, one of the other things with the Manchurian assassins was this. You have toys. We agree, we know. We have toys. We know that you have off-planet stations, so do we. We know that the masses are not aware that we're more advanced than they have been let out to know. However, you take one, we'll take 10. See who lasts. Now let's talk. That's what's going on. The rest of it you can figure out yourself. Meanwhile, we here, and this is redundant, we've said this so many times, but the truth must be told for the comprehension where your state of mind should be. The heirs of the world's largest estate think that human beings are crayons. They're at the very bottom, yet they are the firstborn. They're the wealthiest, and yet they're the poorest.
Yep.
And everybody knows it but them. And they got an attitude.
And the arrogance.
I mean, it's like, this is where we are. Again, Wardship, DisSPELLere. So before the heirs of the estate can be even qualified to even handle anything called values, they've got to be retaught government. They've got to be restructured in moral law, in maxims of law. Therefore, and we draw this up the old Canaanite temple for the restoration of the lost estate to the descendants of the Moors who don't know the Moors. With a command to those who are put in position of power that every temple must have a school. With a command to those set in charge that our own press is the most powerful weapon in the hand of our group. I don't need to tell you about the FBI, CIA operations, and J. Edgar Hoover, etc., the COINTELPRO, and the reason why you don't see the newspaper properly, the Monitor or the Morse Guide. I don't have to tell you. Persons in positions of authority who are sitting even to this day have made sure that that does not happen. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. That's why the prophet did the additional bylaws, additional constitutional bylaws, and caveat emptor. Nevertheless, there are many honorable descendants and heirs that are directly part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and many who are outside that are doing the work in spite of those who are suppressors. And the people whose spirit is right and honorable will see that the law is carried out. And so while many of the dark priesthood have slowed the work of the prophet down, they have not stopped them. And it's at this time, as we speak, accelerating exponentially. As a matter of fact, we don't have enough good teachers and honorable people to hit the hedges and the highways to continue this work of liberation. However, the nature of things is this, and as you already know, those of you who understand cosmogony, Uranus and Saturn is at work. So, put it this way. As concepts of clarity, and it's a continuum too, so understand that it is a continuum, manifest, comprehending and knowing how things work. And this is back to being confident of when you really know truth over religion and how nature works. You don't necessarily be concerned, get the work done. Plant the seed, paint the wall, don't stand there patting your foot. Why are you standing there patting your foot? No, I'm not gonna stand there watching the paint dry. I'll find something to do, we'll make a peanut butter sandwich or something. You know what I mean? do the work, and Venus, the moon, and the sun will do their job.
Yes.
Just like you plant the seed, just clean the earth, plant the seed, the sun and the moon will do their job. Stop being judgmental. Just be honorable. Want good, and there will be good. Want for others what you would want for yourself. You want to save yourself, put the effort into saving someone else. However, if you commit to maintaining the corruption of the priesthood, you will go down with them. And that is the truth. And you're not going to have to wait for some other generation either. So this is why the entertainment communities and the political communities are being outed. And the reason why is because those are the head of what you would call midpoint transfer of social energy through the private commercial paper. As an example, like say someone who's an actor generating millions of energy units, and the masses call them dollars, which they're not. They're bookkeeping entries, but actually produce little to nothing for humanity. Likewise for politicians who are absolute leeches. Same thing with the priesthood, absolute leeches. All of them are parasites. The masses have been admiring them because their imagery. So therefore, to liberate humanity from the mystery systems of these people they've been looking up to for decades, the whole platform, put it this way, they're not taking the garbage food off the table, they're knocking one of the legs out of the table. That's what's really happening, but look at that from a spiritual perspective. All right? So that's what's happening with all of those institutions. And it's accelerating, and it's going to accelerate more. However, it's not personal in a sense, it's for the sake of humanity. Now, the deal of it is, it's incumbent upon you, those of you who know, to use this opportunity to hit the hedges and the highways to do your work in liberating the people. And therefore, under Wardship DisSPELLere, you're given certain keys that will lead you to other knowledge, that will create a domino effect. And understand the other principle is this, what they call the 100th monkey. And the 100th monkey is when you project the information, and if it's pure, as you can make it be in honor, without selfishness, Mother Nature takes and reconnects the electrical wire grid. There's an absolute network, what we call from the ancient world, ley lines. And the ley lines is the electrical grid that surrounds Gaia, and every species on the planet has a tonal to the electric grid that harmonizes with them. It has been broken with the humans by the priesthood. It is being mended now. This is why around somewhere around in the cycle of the Egyptian calendar transferred under Gregory as the Gregorian calendar, the adoption of the leap year principle of 1992, that the shift of the north was about 3 degrees incremental. Yeah, about 3 degrees east. So the north, the pole, what they call pole shift, it was actually to kind of alter and force them to have to reset all of their flying apparatus, including all airports. So it was to slow them down. All right, and you already know, most of you already know, that the rule in Gaia is that there shall be no interference. So basically, they don't interfere. So if they interfere, shit hit the fan, to put it bluntly. Which they do not do. So rest assured that whilst bad on one hand, it's for your good on the other hand. All right? Anyway, are there any more questions? Yeah, go ahead.
briefly, could you, here you go,
Get in the mic.
Briefly, could you explain, I believe the term is Nephilim and Raphim, and are they in relation to the dark priesthood or its origin?
And that's not really all dark either, in that sense. Let's put it this way. When you're talking about seeding, everything that's in the universe as we know, and all of us is not from this planet. That's a fact. But everything that lives is seeded. All right, so that's a principle. It's an established principle. When you're dealing with, some people call some of them visitors. It's not exactly like they've been saying. That's the predisposition that the humans were here. First, it's not necessarily true. And many of them, many of us basically are hybrids of them. We see in the book of genetics when it says, let us make man. So Gaia is a school. That's for one. Gaia is a school, Gaia is a garden. There's others who are far more advanced, and for self-preservation, it might be kind of uncomfortable for a lot of people, but you can say some of us are their children for other purposes. Also, some of us are in these shells or these vessels for a learning curve. What you'll see in ancient Egypta, where you see the rays, you'll see the rays coming down like that, or they say, this is why, when you'll see when people are really taught religion, and they'll say Amen Ra. They'll just say Amen instead of Amen Ra. Then that is symbolic or the projection of the experience. Not unlike deep sea divers. Consider deep sea divers and people going in deep sea, and they've got hoses or oxygen tanks, and we build a bubble civilization on the bottom of the water, and we start developing over generations, and after a while people forget that they came from someplace else and start thinking that that's the life. Kind of look at us here kind of like the same way to get a better comprehension. However, on another level, and this is my position on this, the dark priest parasites that have been running Gaia for some time have a serious threat of being removed now. Unlike sometimes past, and others have failed. Meaning different prophets have come to try to put Rome in check, and they've murdered them. They've got formidable competition now. They know they're being removed. Are we clear? So they're doing a lot of not nice things to people. I prefer to look at it this way. The dark priests and those who have been working for them have been robbing humanity for centuries. Now that they're being exposed, now the lizards did it. Now, I got your bike, I'm riding your bike, but the Nephilim did it.
Right.
I'm taking your house and gentrifying your community, but the Anunnaki did it. That's how I look at that. So I'm saying this. This is what I say. Get over yourselves. You've been here for millions of years. You're not new. The priests have been lying to you. Earth is a school. You're an evolutionary project amongst many. And the priesthood have put you and the earth in what they consider perpetuity of poverty and peonage that they cover up with the term slavery. They didn't think they were going to be put in check, which is happening right now. All right? So don't worry about the Nephilim stealing your bike or your car. The guy who stopped you on the street and took your stuff, took it in. And the demon that sent him. And don't worry about Anunnaki and the Nephilim and the lizards. If they was going to eat your brains, they'd have done a long time ago. You know what I mean? In other words, if I got your bike, deal with me. This is what's happening in truth. This whole thing, because we already know that and more of other beings that's been here in different dimensions. And dimensions are not so much a place as their vibratory states and sound states. All right, so let's get over that. The priesthood's been robbing people forever, and the people meaning they ain't scooped up with the God and devil game no more. Meaning translation, it ain't working. So that's the new devil. You understand what I'm saying? The devil made me do it, stuff ain't working. Now they got a new devil. So the shapeshifters did it to you. You know, the lizards did it to you. The Anunnaki, stop. They've been here, and others been here you ain't seen yet. And some of you are some of them. So get over yourself. Anyway, thank you for coming out to the House of Reawakening Minds. You are listening. You know, Dr. Nailah sacrificed to keep the house open. Make sure you keep touch base with her, support the house, etc. Service worthy of her hire. I hope we learned something. And again, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. Wardship, DisSPELLere, and the nature of it is to slay naivety, not to hurt your belief systems. You understand? To show you that you got a placebo. Take responsibility, learn to love instead of hate, and help raise humanity. Are we clear? Study no duality's work and present the truth that's behind it. And understand that the prophet said the half has not been told. If I told you everything, you'd go back to sleep. And he also said, be careful more. Some of your own brothers and sisters wearing turbans and feathers will be trying to put you back into servitude. And the best way to help people to get around that is Wardship, DisSPELLere principle that has removed the mystery of the God game, because that's their number one tool. What you least suspect was the tool that was used to enslave you. And so the very priesthood that you thought loved you and loved divine order was actually the direct workers for the Roman murderers of the prophets, which is why they've been successful and you've been in poverty. Are we clear?
Clear.
So get over yourself, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and honor your mothers and fathers. Have a good night. Who's Zodiac Constitution up here? I know this is yours. This
All of those
Zodiac
are mine. Yeah,
all this good stuff?
Don't need to get understand the beginner's books and stuff.